Your life is not a meadow. It is a map, borders, roads, and choke points. Inside those borders, factions argue, ambition, appetite, fatigue, each believes it should rule. When you wake, a council forms in silence. The minister of comfort asks for an easy morning. The minister of desire wants one more scroll, one more message, one more bite. The minister of pride demands an audience. And somewhere the minister of duty clears a dusty chair and waits for you to sit. You are a principality. The palace is your attention. The treasury is your time. Your habits are militias, some loyal, some bribed, some asleep at their posts. Your values are the law, but laws without enforcement are poems. If you do not govern, someone else will. A craving, an old wound, a bored afternoon that grows into a riot. The first order of rule is to see the state clearly, who pays taxes, who steals, who guards the gates when you are tired. Do not moralize the factions, govern them. The sweet voice that says, "Rest, you've earned it," is not evil. It is a party seeking budget. The sharp voice that says, "Work," is not holy. It is another party seeking power. Your task is not to punish feelings but to seat them properly. Give comfort a small district, warm tea, a walk, a measured bedtime. Give desire regulated markets, deliberate pleasures at approved hours. Give duty the gavel. Make pride a diplomat who negotiates reputation without declaring war on truth. Better to be feared than loved was written for princes. But you are the prince of this inner city. To be feared inside means consequences that arrive on time. Miss the wake up, pay the fine cold shower, extra work block, no late night screen. Keep the treaty, earn a credit, an hour with friends, a movie guilt-free. This is not self-hatred. This is reliable law. Love without law breeds corruption. Fear without fairness breeds revolt. Govern with both, steady penalties, steady rewards, no drama. The love you want from yourself is trust. Trust is built by audits, not promises. Say less, announce less, count more. How many focused minutes? How many lies to yourself? How many nights did you defend the border of sleep? Commanders get what they inspect, not what they expect. Inspect your days, publish the numbers to yourself like a ledger. The city calms when the numbers speak. Now fortune. In every city there is a river that floods. Fortune is that river, your moods, other people's whims, the news cycle, the algorithm's weather. On good days, the river is low and the fields are green. On bad days, the banks break and the streets drown. You do not control the river. You build levees, you raise the doors, you move important archives to higher ground before the storm. Virtù is not a feeling, virtù is capacity. The ability to build the levee before it rains, the strength to enforce curfew when night voices get loud, the cunning to design your streets so bad habits take the long way around. You practice virtù every time you remove a temptation from arm's reach, automate a bill, block a site, shift the phone to another room. You practice it when you plan the next morning before sleep, when you make friends with people who guard their own borders well. Day one begins with a map. Where are the gates? Morning, lunch, evening, bed. Who stands there? What oath do they swear? Day one replaces wish with order. Day one accepts that storms will come and decides not to be surprised. Day one writes the first law on a single page you can carry: what you will do when fortune rises, what you will do when you win, what you will never trade again. Rule or be ruled. The state waits for your signal. Stand, take the chair, and speak the law. Discipline is my peace. Order is my mercy. It is necessary to be a fox to discover the snares and a lion to terrify the wolves. The soft coup never shouts. It smiles, it crowds your calendar with polite obligations. It tells you gently to wait, to avoid offense. Overnight it replaces hard choices with soft words. You wake loyal to nothing but comfort and call it kindness. The gospel of niceness arrives like a hymn. Be agreeable, be easy, say yes. In meetings you soften your voice. You praise ideas you do not respect. You let sloppy deadlines slide because you fear the firm face more than the failed result. At dinner you avoid the truth about money, alcohol, or effort because the table might grow tense. Niceness becomes a mask that hides indecision. You tell yourself you are keeping the peace, In fact, you are keeping your hands clean while your future pays the bill. Niceness without strength invites predators with tidy hair. The colleague who takes credit for your work has read your posture. The friend who guilt trips you has measured your appetite for conflict and found it starved. The partner who ignores your boundaries knows how long your patience lasts. They are not monsters, they are opportunists. You train them. You rehearsed surrender in small doses until it felt like virtue. You traded the spine of clear speech for the sugar of being liked. True compassion is expensive. It tells the truth at personal cost. It holds the line and offers a steady hand. With strength, niceness becomes hospitality under guard. Warm light inside the house. Locks secure, watchmen awake. Without strength, niceness is an unlocked door. With a sign that reads, "Please be good." The prince who will not defend the gate loses the city and writes a poem about why it was noble. Approval is the new currency. Minted by platforms and spent in your veins, you build a version of yourself for the feed. Curated grief, curated joy, curated outrage, each filtered to avoid the friction of the real. You refresh to see who approved the mask. Hearts appear like coins. Views climb like imaginary stairs. Dependence on praise bankrupts authority. In the office, you sand every message until it reads like a patch note, not a decision. In your relationships, you withhold boundaries because boundaries risk unlikes. When criticism arrives, you wobble like glass. You ask 5 people for their take before you consult your own law. You are ruled by a pole you cannot see, conducted by strangers who will never face your consequences. Algorithmic selfhood is a quiet puppet show. The strings are subtle: fear of missing out, fear of standing alone, fear of being called hard. You delay moves until the comments warm the room. This is how rulers become ruled. A prince who hunts only when the crowd claps starves in a winter of low engagement. Authority requires solitude, time without noise, decisions that ignore the market of approval. Now the bribe. Comfort does not threaten you, it courts you. It pays in tiny pleasures, direct deposited every hour. Hit snooze. Merge tomorrow's problem with today's scroll. Trim the truth to avoid a sigh. Say we'll see when you mean no. Promise later and purchase relief now. Each small concession is a coin you borrow from your future. Count the costs like a treasurer. 10 minutes late becomes a reputation that shuts doors you will never know existed. One unspoken boundary becomes a habit of silence that grows mold in your chest. A hedged email saves a minute and loses a month to confusion. The meeting you avoid becomes a conflict with teeth. The workout you skip writes a memo to your mood that reads, "We are fragile." Later, when you need the lion, you find a cat. Comfort is a clever banker. It never asks for the principal at once. It collects as drift, a softer chair, a sweeter snack, a milder stance. It waits until an emergency to present the bill. Then it demands stamina you did not train, courage you did not practice, clarity you never purchased. You will pay with panic. The bribe always turns to blackmail. There is another account. It pays slowly and lasts. It is the account of necessary discomfort. 5 honest sentences that make the room colder now and cleaner later. A budget that cancels 3 bright toys so you can buy 1 true tool. A boundary that ends a fake friendship and frees a real one. The first gym session back when your lungs burn and your pride shrinks. These are deposits into authority. When storms rise, you withdraw calm. Audit your life like a state after a coup. Where did niceness replace policy? Where did applause replace principle? Where did comfort write your laws? Rewrite them. Issue new tender, respect for results. Not compliance with mood. Devalue flattery. Tax delay. Subsidize courage. Put deadlines on your calendar as if they were borders. Guard them. Decide which relationships are trade routes and which are raiders. Close the ports that import chaos. Practice the fox and the lion inside. The fox sees the trap in compliments that push you past your limits. The lion ends the meeting that has wandered into gossip. The fox finds a path around the superior's vanity. So the project ships. The lion says no to the event that siphons a weekend you promised your craft. Together they prevent the soft coup. The world will still prefer your softness when it benefits them. Expect it. Smile when you can. Decline when you must. Let people feel mildly disappointed and keep your law intact. You were not chosen to decorate other people's comfort. You were chosen by necessity to rule yourself. The coup fails when you tell the truth, enforce the line, and endure the silence that follows. Opportunists travel elsewhere. Allies arrive. Your name begins to mean something measurable, not liked, trusted. I choose strength over sweetness, truth over praise, and duty over ease. Your wounds hold elections when you sleep. They count votes in quiet rooms. Old scenes raise their hands, a hallway laugh, a message left unread, a parent's sigh at the wrong time. You think you wake free, but your cabinet has already met. They pass decrees in your name and stamp them with your fear. By noon, you follow orders you never reviewed. You call it preference. It is policy set by ghosts. Picture your inner map. Some provinces have roads and guards. Others are blank, the corners you avoid, the back streets where memory moves without a badge. These are the unruled provinces. Where law is absent, bandits arrive. They do not ask permission. They levy their own taxes. Energy drained, hours missing, strange detours through familiar mistakes. Bandits love a prince who hates patrols. Unruled provinces begin in small, sharp moments. You were 10 when a teacher asked a hard question, and your mouth went dry. The class laughed. Heat climbed your neck. A province public risk was left to rot. Now, years later, you avoid raising your hand in meetings. You add 3 disclaimers to every idea, just brainstorming. I'm not sure, feel free to ignore. You say these to sound humble. In truth, the bandits of humiliation collect their fee. You leave the room with your best point unspoken. Another province fell the day you learned love could be withdrawn like a loan. You felt the cold, promised yourself never again. You mastered charm, not as joy, but as shield. You became pleasant beyond belief. You read micro-expressions like weather. You lowered your own needs so your place at the table felt safe. Now in adulthood, you volunteer for the dull project, laugh at jokes that crawl under your skin, and wonder why resentment tightens your chest. A smuggler runs that border, importing resentment at night and exporting your time in the morning. There is also the province of money. Perhaps your family treated it like taboo. Perhaps it arrived in bursts and vanished in storms. You learned to treat budgets like superstition. Now you work hard and live in fog. You tap pay later. You say, I deserve this when you are tired, and I'll fix it next month when the bill arrives. The province is ruled by bandits named Delay and Wish. They are pleasant. They always promise tomorrow's reform. Do not curse the provinces. Rule them. A vacuum is not a morality tale. It is a technical problem. Patrol new roads. Light the dark corners. When you feel the old heat in your neck, do not wait for bravery to descend like weather. Use a script. One sentence, clean and brief. Here is my view. Deliver it early, not perfectly. Place a guard at the gate, a calendar block named Prepare 1 point. Law beats mood when the border is clear. Now the fox. You deny the fox because you imagine honesty must be soft and literal, but a prince who refuses cunning is a meal on legs. The fox already works for you, just not under your command. It whispers convenient fictions. You're too busy to say no. They need you to be easy. If you set a boundary, they will leave. It forges alibis like a craftsman. You arrive late with a flawless story. You stay late in a job you hate because you can narrate its nobility. You pretend you do not know your own power because responsibility would follow. The fox also wears a nicer disguise, tactical people-pleasing. You manage others' moods like portfolios. You never risk a dip, even if the long-term return collapses. You apologize when you are not sorry. You overpraise to avoid envy's sting. You under-ask to avoid the word no. You rehearse helplessness when decisions grow teeth. I didn't get the calendar invite. My Wi-Fi died. I'm confused. Confusion can be a strategy. It buys time. It shifts burden. It hides your refusal. The fox is brilliant. In the dark, it serves fear. Bring it into the light. The fox is an intelligence service, not a saboteur if you command it. Use it to scout patterns. Who delays when you set a boundary? Who respects a firm date? Which hour of your day leaks the most strength? The fox can stage deceptions that protect the mission without violating your law, a polite deflection to a chronic gossip, a scripted, let me think and reply tomorrow to stop ambush decisions, a precise, what outcome are you asking for? When someone smears responsibility across the room, the fox's craft cleanly used is clarity with teeth. But beware the lion without teeth. Rage feels like rule. It is not. You slam doors, write battlefield emails at midnight, threaten a new life every Sunday and wake Monday unchanged. You post slogans about discipline and stretch them like flags over a hollow fort. You buy a fresh journal and declare a revolution that ends when lunch arrives. You look like a lion. Bandits smile. They know you will not patrol after the speech. Blunt force without capacity makes you predictable. Colleagues learn your cycle. Surge, boast, crash, excuse. Partners learn your threats have soft edges. Moods learn how to ride you like a rented horse. You react loud and early. They wait you out, a prince who roars at the first sign of resistance, burns supplies he never had. He becomes entertainment. The city tires of sirens that do not lead to arrests. Teeth are built, not shouted. Capacity is hours on task. Reps under weight, drills under boredom. The lion's dignity is logistics. If you cannot do 10 push-ups, do not promise an hour at dawn. Promise 5 minutes and place your shoes by the door before sleep. If you cannot deliver a complex project alone, segment it like a general reconnaissance, supply lines, assault. If your temper writes checks, your schedule cannot cash, install a policy, no sending after drafting, cool down overnight, reread in the morning as if you were the target. Teeth are the boring part of courage. Now integration. Your wounds have been negotiating treaties you never signed. One swore never ask for help, they will own you. Another declared, if they are pleased, you are safe. Another carved into stone, lash out first so nobody can touch you. Replace these with law, call the provinces to a congress. Hear the facts without drama. Publish 3 statutes, where the fox scouts, where the lion enforces, where you calm awake, decide. Use modern terrain to your advantage. Put friction where you fail. Block the apps that eat your mornings. Remove autopay from luxuries and add it to savings you respect. Schedule the hard conversation as a calendar event with an agenda line. Create allies. A mentor who values results over noise. A friend who trains when you do. A partner who prefers a lean truth to a padded lie. Make disloyalty to your new law unprofitable. Late fees you actually pay. Social plans you cancel if the work is broken. Restful evenings you lose. If you break your morning oath, consequence is not cruelty. It is the language your shadow respects. Remember, the fox without a mission is a trickster. The lion without capacity is a costume. Together under rule, they become instruments. The fox finds the snare before you step. The lion stands in the doorway and ends the conversation that drains a month. Your wounds will still hold elections, but now the ballot is narrow. The law is public. The guards are paid. The provinces light their streets. You are not pure. You do not need to be. You need to be governed. Seat the fox at intelligence. Sharpen the lion at defense. Audit the provinces. Close the smuggling routes. Let the bandits starve, then sleep. The night council will meet again, but this time it will end on time, and the decree will carry your seal. I see the trap. I build my strength, and I rule myself. When the facade cracks, the city learns who truly rules. You feel it first as a tremor. A message arrives and the ground tilts. One line of text, a receipt you cannot explain. A look on a face you thought you knew. The lie you fed the city slips from its mask and hits the stones. Doors slam, windows shatter, the palace burns. Quick cuts, short breaths, your name sounds foreign in your own mouth. You scroll, hunting for context that will save you. There is none. The story you rehearsed for others, the one you told yourself, buckles like a cheap bridge. In the mirror, your crown looks like a toy. The guards glance away. The air smells of smoke and old promises. At work, a result you inflated collapses under questions. The room goes cold. Your boss asks the one thing you cannot answer. Your voice shrinks to a thin wire. You try to climb it and fall through. The meeting ends, and your calendar becomes a battlefield map with red arrows pointing at your name. At home, the person who trusted you holds a screenshot. There is no good spin. Your heart bangs on the gates. You offer a stammered tour of half-truths. They walk through the ruins, quiet. You taste metal. Panic runs the streets. Shame flies the flag. Inside, unruled factions riot. Appetite loots the pantry. Fear shouts orders it cannot enforce. Memory drags old bodies from the river and lays them at your feet. You watch yourself from a balcony and do not recognize the prince. You want to wake in a different story. You want to rewind. There is no rewind. There is only the city on fire demanding a ruler. In the smoke come the opportunists. They never miss a crisis. They promise peace if you hand them the keys. Catastrophe arrives first dressed as a prophet. It's over, it whispers. Resign from your life. Flee your duty. Burn the bridges yourself so no one else can. It offers relief through ruin. Quit the job, ghost the partner, delete the numbers. It promises that if you end everything quickly, the pain will be clean. It lies. Ruin multiplies when it is rushed by panic. Addiction follows, smiling like an ally. You need relief, it says. Only for tonight. It points you toward the bottle, the website, the app, the store, the kitchen, the bed, the person you promised to avoid. It does not ask for your throne. It asks for your evening. It will invoice you in mornings, interest compounding. Then comes self-pity, the populist with a velvet voice. It tells you the city never loved you, that the world was unfair, that you owed nothing anyway. It campaigns against hard choices. It runs on a platform of not your fault, and it wins landslides in tired minds. It feeds you speeches and leaves you weak. Blame arrives carrying a map of enemies. It points to faces, boss, parent, algorithm, traffic, weather, fate. It drafts an army with other people's names and promises to march by dawn. You feel strong as you swear oaths against them. But your stores are empty. Blame does not sharpen a sword. It only sharpens your tongue. Watch how these demagogues work. They promise relief, not rule. They want the palace lights without the tax system. They want the anthem without the roads. They want the crowd roaring while the granaries rot. In the data of your day, notifications, snacks, gossip, late-night scrolls, they gather votes. In your exhaustion, they hold elections you do not attend. They declare victory and demand parades. To resist them, name them. Speak their slogans out loud and hear the thinness. End everything now, just tonight. No one understands. It's all their fault. Print them on cheap paper in your mind and stamp them void. You cannot negotiate with mobs. You can only deny them the square. But beware the false treaty. After a fire, you want quiet. You want anyone to say it will be fine. This is when you sign deals that cannot stand. You apologize without changing the law. You say, it won't happen again, with no budget, no patrols, no dates. You bring flowers to a war. You ask the other person to trust you while you still trust chance. They nod because they are tired. You salute because you are ashamed. The city breathes, briefly. Then the night returns with knives. Or you sign a treaty with yourself. You buy a new planner and call it reform. You set wild goals for 5 a.m. Fluent in dreams, illiterate in logistics, you post a vow, you feel powerful. The vow expires at lunch. You did not build teeth, you built a speech. Courtroom clarity now. Order returns only with credible enforcement, not loud words. Predictable penalties, predictable rewards. If you broke trust, write a policy with the injured party like a lawmaker, not a poet. What information will be shared when and how? What access ends? What new transparency begins? What happens if the policy is broken again? Precisely, not anger, not tears, consequence. Sign it, live under it. Ask them to judge the results, not your intentions. In your work, replace promises with milestones, dates, deliverables, reviews. Ask for oversight that can see more than your own hope. Install dual controls on the parts of your job you tend to bend. Do not argue for your goodness. Build procedures that make goodness the path of least resistance. In your habits, turn penance into practice. Do not starve yourself to prove remorse. Sleep on time, eat like an adult, move your body. Track the numbers like a treasure. Make dishonor expensive. If you break your morning oath, pay a fee to your future. No streaming tonight, extra work block. A call to the person you owe the truth. Make honor rewarding. If you keep the line, buy yourself an hour you love. Guilt-free. This is not cruelty. This is governance. The palace still smokes. The crowd still murmurs. You still ache. Good. Pain is proof the system noticed the breach. Use it as signal, not scripture. Rebuild in the open. Admit what failed. Name who rules now. Announce the policies in plain language. Then shut the gates and begin. The opportunists will try again. They always do. But when they come, they will find checkpoints. Catastrophe will meet contingency plans. Savings, backups, a prepared sentence for when panic arrives. Addiction will meet delays in distance, blocked routes, harder access, a friend on speed dial, whose job is not to comfort but to confirm the law. Self-pity will meet gratitude, written like inventory, 3 lines every night about what survived the fire. Blame will meet audits that include your name first. This is how the Civil War slows. Not with a speech, but with a schedule. Not with a tear, but with a ledger. Not with a begging heart, but with a steady hand. Someday soon you will walk the rebuilt corridor. It will be quieter than your old pride. Better. You will see fewer banners, fewer mirrors. You will see tools, maps, timetables. Your name on a small plaque that says not savior, not genius, not innocent but responsible. The palace was always going to burn. Wood catches, paint peels, systems fail. What matters is who learns to govern between fires. Refuse the demagogues. Refuse the false treaty. Write law, enforce law, accept the cost, enjoy the peace. I face the fire, deny the mob, and return to rule. Dependency wore your ring, not love. You told yourself a kind story. They care, I care. But the ledger was colder. What you named love demanded silence, shrinking and side deals. What you called self-love required excuses, loopholes, and soft rules. Love did not wound you. Dependence did. Dependence on approval, on attention, on the hope that someone else would carry what you refused to govern. Begin with the hard split, love versus security. Real care is expensive. It trades comfort for truth. It asks you to speak when your voice shakes and to hear what you want to mute. Pseudo-care is cheap. It keeps the room warm and the questions cold. You felt this at dinner when a joke cut you and you laughed anyway. You felt it at work when a boundary was crossed and you said, "It's fine," because peace felt safer than dignity. That was not love. That was insurance, paying premiums of self-betrayal to avoid the storm. Audit relationships by cost and consequence. Who tells you the truth when it costs them approval? Who asks for the truth when it might cost them you? Keep those people. Who only loves the version of you that never says no, never asks for clarity, never risks boredom. They do not love you. They love your compliance. In a principality, this is the difference between allies and courtiers. Allies bring grain, courtiers bring compliments and empty the storehouses. Apply the same test to your inner voice. When you break a promise to yourself, does your self-talk ask for clarity and repair, or does it drown you in blame or excuses? Real care says, "We broke the law, here is the consequence, here is the plan." Pseudo-care says, "You deserve a pass or you are hopeless." One keeps the road open, the other makes mud. Your future can travel only on roads, not moods. Now, honor versus image. You were trained to chase being seen as good. Perfect caption, perfect apology, perfect narrative of growth. Image is the costume of virtue. Honor is the enforcement of it. Image can be rented. Honor is paid for, daily. You do not need to look righteous. You need to be effective and just. In practice, choose outcomes over optics. Manage consequences like a ledger, not impressions like a feed. Say less, do more. Quit promising, start delivering. Accept that some will dislike your method while benefiting from your results. A prince who tries to be loved for every decision becomes a servant of the loudest desire. A ruler with honor accepts being misunderstood while the bridges get built. When you feel the itch to polish your story, resist. Send the draft when it is ready, not adored. Correct the mistake without the speech about how hard it was. Return money you should not have taken. End the friendship that runs on gossip. Even if the group chat sulks, you are moving the moral center from performance to principle with teeth. Teeth are not cruelty. Teeth are credibility. Now the final turn. Self-rule is love. You wanted someone to prove you were worth protecting. You waited for a partner, a boss, a mentor to install guardrails you refused to build. That was the dream of dependence. outsourcing your constitution to a warmer face. It always ends the same way. You are hurt, you blame fortune, and you sign another treaty with comfort. End the cycle. Govern yourself. Self-governance is predictable law, not inspiration, not fireworks. Law, wake times as borders, spending rules as tariffs, food, sleep, and exercise as infrastructure, calendars as roads, reviews as audits. If this sounds cold, look closer. Law is the warm blanket that does not lie. It protects you at 3 a.m. when feelings stage a coup. It protects your partner because your promises are trackable. It protects your work because your deliverables do not depend on weather. Make discipline protective by writing it like policy. For each vulnerable area, draft 3 lines: what you will do, what you will never do, what happens if you break the rule. Example, I train at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. I do not negotiate with the alarm. If I miss, I pay a fee to savings and cancel entertainment that night. Example, I will not discuss people who are not in the room. If I slip, I name it and stop. Example, I review money on Sunday at 5. If I miss, I transfer a penalty and schedule a makeup session before leisure. Extend the policy to love itself. We tell the truth even when it is inconvenient. We pause when tempers rise and return in an hour. We do not threaten the relationship during conflict. Real care chooses structure over drama. It invests in rituals that make kindness repeatable: weekly councils, device-free dinners, shared calendars, written expectations. Love respects the gate because it wants the city to last. You may fear that law will make you hard. In fact, it makes you generous. When your needs are not a mystery, you do not punish others for failing to guess. When your days are not chaos, you have spare energy for grace. When your budget is real, you can help without resenting the gift. Order multiplies kindness. Disorder bleeds it. Understand the reframe. It was never love that swallowed your time and blurred your voice. It was dependence on praise, on a mask, on a rescuer. You do not need to hate the past to rule the present. Replace bargaining with policy, image with honor, and mood with law. Then watch what grows where confusion used to feed. I choose honor over image, law over longing, and real care over sweet lies. A prince must imitate the fox and the lion, for the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. Today you write law, not poems, not wishes, law. You have seen what happens when moods rule. Now you seat the council. Draft the code and sign with your time. This constitution is not a dream about who you hope to be. It is a schedule, a tariff, a boundary, a blade. It will protect you when the night argues and the morning forgets. Articles of virtù begin with the non-negotiables. Sleep is border security. Lights out at the same hour, 5 nights of 7. Break curfew and pay the fee. No evening entertainment tomorrow, and a 30-minute earlier wake as reparations. Work blocks are sovereign territory. 2 focus blocks, 90 minutes each, protected by do not disturb, headphones on, phone in exile, cross the border and the fine is immediate, reschedule the block that day before leisure. Truth-telling is the oath of office. No white lies about time or effort, no promises without dates, no blame that erases your part. Money rules are tariffs, spend on needs with intent, delay once for 24 hours, record every purchase on Sunday. Miss the review, transfer a penalty to savings before any comfort. Training is infrastructure, minimum 20 minutes, 5 days a week. If missed, walk at night and forfeit screens. Write the articles spare and clear, 1 sentence for the standard, 1 sentence for the breach, 1 sentence for the consequence. Do not write inspiration, write enforcement. You are making the choice easy at the moment of choice by removing debate. The city obeys predictable rules, so do you. Now appoint the ministries. The fox becomes director of intelligence, pattern reading, reconnaissance, negotiation. Each morning it delivers a brief where yesterday's time leaked, who delayed when confronted, which habit ambushed you, which hour is weakest. The fox scouts your calendar for traps, open-ended meetings, vague requests, soft deadlines, and marks them in red. It writes scripts for hard conversations, short and precise, 1 sentence to state the issue, 1 to state the boundary, 1 to state the consequence. It tracks tells in others, late replies, hedged asks, flattering detours, and advises routes that keep the mission safe. The lion becomes minister of defense, boundaries, and decisive action. It escorts you out of useless rooms. It says no without an essay. It ends gossip with, "I won't discuss people who aren't here." It protects sleep by carrying you to bed even when the feed sings. It enforces work blocks like a guard at a gate. If someone tries to enter, the lion offers a later time, not the present one. It holds the door against your own urges too. The extra scroll, the extra slice, the extra promise. The lion's roar is brief and final, not cruel, certain. Where the fox finds the lock, the lion turns the key. You, as sovereign, coordinate them. Intelligence without enforcement becomes elegant avoidance. Enforcement without intelligence becomes brittle pride. Together they form policy. The fox scouts the terrain. The lion shapes it. You decide, they execute. And the city learns the rhythm of your rule. Next, credible threats and credible promises. People and the factions within you respond to incentives, not sermons. Build sanctions that bite the present, not the future. Break a morning law and lose an immediate pleasure that day. Streaming, sweets, scrolling, the extra coffee. Keep the law across a week and cash the promise. A planned purchase, an afternoon off, a visit you enjoy. Write the numbers. Track like a treasure. Post tallies where you must see them. The aim is not punishment, it is predictability. Sanctions must be small enough to use and real enough to feel. Giant penalties become myths you never enforce. Tiny penalties become jokes. Find the midline and make it automatic. Use timers, app limits, and a deputy, an accountability partner who checks the log and simply says, pay or proceed. Do not hire a cheerleader. Hire a clerk with a stamp. Rewards must also clear quickly. Celebrate kept promises with sun, movement, a favorite hour, then return to duty. Fortune's floodgates are next. You cannot command the river, but you can raise the banks. Draft contingency plans for predictable storms, travel, illness, guests, grief, launches. Pre-commitments make the desired choice cheaper in the moment. Bag ready by the door, clothes laid out, the first task written in plain words on your desk. Add friction to bad choices. Remove the app from the home screen, place snacks high and boring, freeze the credit card in a bag of water, move the router plug to an outlet that makes you stand and notice what you are about to do. When chaos hits, run the flood protocol, not your feelings. If sleep is cut, reduce output by a fixed ratio and protect the next night like a dam. If a crisis hijacks your day, rescue one work block, 10 minutes counts, and declare victory on that front. If you break a rule, enact the consequence before explaining it. The city learns by what you do, not what you justify. You are building levees, not speeches. Finally, public works. A stable state builds roads others use. Your alliances and reputation are infrastructure. Who benefits when you keep order? Find them, invest there, and your peace gains defenders. Train with friends who train. Share silent tables with people who work while others talk. Collaborate with colleagues who prefer clear commitments to flattering delays. Offer reliability and collect reliability in return. Tie your law to public good, shared calendars, shared goals, shared reviews. When your stability feeds others, they will help guard it. Guard your name, not the mask, the record. Reputation is a moat dug by repeated delivery. Speak modestly about plans and loudly about results. Decline flattery that pulls you from policy. When someone demands the old you, the always available, the endlessly pleasant, smile once and say, I can't, and let the lion close the door. If they benefit from your order, they will adapt. If they only benefited from your disorder, they will depart. Either outcome is peace. This Constitution will not end struggle. It makes struggle governable. It will cost you ease at first and buy you dignity later. It will feel strict until it feels safe. You are not writing a prison. You are building roads, courts, and walls so that art, love, and work can live without constant raids. Read it each morning like a pledge. Enforce it each evening like a judge. Revise it only in council, never in crisis. Let the fox report, let the lion enforce, and let your name mean law that does not tremble when the room does. I keep my oath, I marshal my strength, and I govern my life. Peace is a crown you earn at dawn. It does not glitter. It does not sing. It sits on your head like a quiet weight and keeps the wind from taking your thoughts. You do not chase it, you maintain it. Measured peace begins with a simple morning. The alarm rings and you rise because the law says so, not because you feel like it. Water on your face, shoes by the door. The first task written the night before, one clear line. You do it before your moods hold a vote. The city inside you notices, streets open, traffic moves. Desire arrives as it should, and you negotiate cleanly, coffee after the first block, social scrolling after the second. Pleasure is not banished. It is scheduled. The fox checks the corridors. The lion stands at the door. You feel the difference between craving and consent. You say yes to what you chose yesterday. You say no to what tries to buy today. Small victories stack. An email that lands like a finished brick. A meal you planned instead of hunted. A message you send without flattery or spike. Nothing dramatic, just roads that stay open. At noon, you take inventory. Minutes worked, money moved, promises kept. If the count is light, you adjust the afternoon without anger. Peace is not a fantasy of uninterrupted ease. It is the presence of rule in the middle of interruption. When a problem knocks, you do not panic. You open the file where your policy lives. You run the protocol. The city breathes. Evenings are simple. You close the ledger, not the eyes. A short walk, a room that is not glowing, talk that is not a battle. You are not numb, you are governed. Sleep comes like an ally who has the keys. This is not a movie ending, it is a city closing its gates on time. Peace decays without maintenance. So you build renewal rituals. Once a week, you hold a council. 10 minutes, papers out, numbers honest. What law held? What failed? What sanctions worked? What rewards felt real? You revise a sentence, not the Constitution. You celebrate a kept oath with a modest feast, a call with someone who makes you better, an hour with an old book, a bath that feels like a treaty honored. Each season, you perform a reset. You retire one ambition that no longer serves. You promote one habit that proved itself. You cut a vanity project and redirect its budget to a real need. Amnesty with terms. You forgive yourself for last quarter's excess on the condition that the new policy is signed and paid. You archive the speeches. You keep the results. Power is a garden. It grows wild if the hedge is ignored. These small prunings keep the path passable. When a breach occurs, and it will, you do not build a theater of remorse. You write the ticket, you pay it. You repair the gate, then you return to rounds. Hope lives here in repeatable repair, not in declarations. The city learns that mistakes are noticed, fixed, and folded into stronger law. Panic loses its voice. Think of your life as a principality that outlives your moods. Regimes fall when they worship weather. You build for climate, your name becomes a quiet seal on ordinary documents. Delivered, met, renewed. People who depend on you feel the shape of your days and plan around them. They defend your order because it feeds them on-time projects. Trustworthy love, calm rooms. You will not be loved by every part of you. That is not required. Appetite will grumble when the kitchen closes. Pride will want a parade. Fear will ask for extra guards. You hear them, you nod, you keep the schedule. Fear rule breeds enough loyalty to survive complaint. The city prefers predictability to fireworks. So do you. In time, peace gains texture. The morning light on a tidy desk, the steady pulse of shoes on a sidewalk, you know. A partner's eyes that do not scan for the next betrayal. Colleagues who send you the hard work because they trust your gates. This is the quiet crown. A weight you carry without spectacle. A rule that holds when the room tilts. Leave a legacy that is not a story but a standard. Let those who follow, your children, your team, your younger self tomorrow morning, inherit roads that work and laws that fit. Let them find your notebooks and see numbers, not excuses. Let them learn that respect is a regime, not a mood. You do not end conflict. You house it. You do not end desire. You train it. You do not end fear. You brief it and give it a post. This is peace. Not the absence of noise, but the presence of rule. A city that sleeps on time and wakes ready. I choose steady law over loud feelings, and I wear the quiet crown,